ever Appreciative Advising workshop. This is being held by the MUW Leadership Academy, specifically the group of us that put it together, Lee Krause, Nicole Welch, Dustin McNeil, and myself, Hannah Bascom. The goodies that you have at your table, the pens and the nice notebook and the refreshments in the back, were provided by the Connie and Tom Thompson Center for Teaching and Learning, the Student Success Center, and Project Q. So we appreciate them doing that for us. I'm going to introduce our speakers today. And while I'm doing that, most of you guys see you've gotten your pre-test. If you would just fill that out. It's not for grade. Please don't put your name on it. But Dr. Merritt is collecting some data for her research, so we'd like to help her out with that. Dr. Michaela Merritt is the Director of Clinical Rotations and an Assistant Professor of Clinical Sciences at William Perry University College of Osteopathic Medicine in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. She has also been recently named the Executive Director of the Mississippi Osteopathic Medical Association. She is a native of Guntown, Mississippi, but has lived in Hattiesburg for the past 12 years. She has a bachelor's degree in athletics training and sports medicine and a master's of public health and health education from the University of Southern Mississippi. She has her specialist degree and PhD in higher education administration from William Perry University. Dr. Merritt worked as an instructor and clinical education coordinator for the athletic training education program at the University of Southern Mississippi for 4 years prior to taking on the role of Director of Clinical Rotations at William Perry. She has been recognized as a Mississippi Healthcare Hero in 2015 and recently nominated as one of Mississippi's top 40 under 40 by the Mississippi Business Journal. Her past research has focused on high-fidelity simulation in acute care and the use of appreciative advising in medical education. So would you join me in welcoming Dr. Michaela Merritt?
Thank you. It's hard for me to hear people talk about me, so I look to the ground. I'm not good at that yet. So thank you for the warm welcome, and I'm very excited to be here today. I've known Hannah for a long time. She's done a great job setting me up, and I was happy to come see your beautiful campus, even in the gloomy weather that we had today. It was still quite beautiful, so thank you guys for having me. And you guys are so friendly. I think you guys are going to be wonderful with this topic, so I'm excited for the afternoon. So they already introduced me and all of my work background and educational background, and so the other side of me is my home life here. I have 3 little ones and a half. Almost 3/4. I'm doing May. It's a little girl, so my daughter's 9, my son's 8, and then my other son's 4, and then this will be a little girl. And if you count my husband, for those women in the room, then that's another child and a half. So no offense. Yeah, so that's my home life and what I do outside of all of these other things that I'm responsible for. So today we're going to talk about appreciative advising. That's in the topic, so you know what you were coming for. But what I think is so important about this is that I know that I'm not an advisor by title. My title has nothing. I know you were telling me that you aren't an advisor, in your main job that you do. And a lot of us are that way. We're content experts in different areas, and we came to this university in a way that's outside of being an advisor. And so to be thrown into, if you now have to teach classes, you may not have ever been taught how to teach before. Now you have to advise students. We may never have been taught how to advise students before. And so that's the purpose of faculty development and that training, after you're a professional. So today we're going to talk about appreciative advising. There are 6 phases, and we're going to go through each of those 6 phases and how you implement those phases. And we've got a few activities that we're going to do as a part of those to help you understand how to apply them. We're going to talk about the student benefits and advisor behaviors while you're applying the 6 phases of appreciative advising. So how did I get started with an advising research topic with my background? Well, like many of us, my dean told me to. So he came to me. I was getting ready to start my dissertation. My background is in sports medicine and public health and medical education. And he said, "Hey, you're getting ready to do a dissertation, right?" "Yes, sir." And he said, "We need better advising." And I was like, "Okay." "Yes, sir." So I really had no background in this, but luckily I love it now, and I'm happy to share the message with other people. because it is so important, and I realize the importance, and I realize how I could apply it even though I didn't think I was a true advisor. And so when you look in the literature, so when my dean came to me and he said, okay, I need you to do this. I need you to fix our advising system. And I saw the first thing, like any good PhD would do, I go to the literature and see what's been done, what's there, what are the best practices. And it's very interesting to me that all across the literature, you see that academic advising is largely neglected at many institutions. And if it's not neglected, it's not, the parameters for it are not there. There's not a lot of standardization across universities as far as advising goes. So that was really important for me. So there was a clear need. Another thing that emerged from the literature was the stress in the students. College students have an enormous amount of stress. Certainly college students, so I work in a medical school that are in a professional program. For those of you who have a cohort style program where they have to meet certain standards to stay in, a very high standard, that's a ton of stress for students when they get into these roles and they're trying to juggle being an adult and handling all of the things that are going on in life right then. And so that's something that we have to consider. And our job as ambassadors for our university is to try to help these students along. We want these students to graduate and be professionals and go out and make the world a better place for our children and grandchildren, And so that's our job, is to foster them and help them through this time. And another thing that came about in the literature that I thought was something that, I really knew, but it was interesting to see it described, was that students often will have these idealized expectations of what college is like. And it's because of college, right? The movies, they watch these movies and they're like, college is a blast, right? So much fun. And then they get there and there's all this work you have to do. And it's hard, And then they don't talk about the fact that you have to pay bills and you have to have housing and you have to eat and you need a car that has to have gas and all of these other considerations that are going in. Certainly in my role with medical education, and I'm sure that this would be found in a lot of the other health professions too, students come in day one in medical school and they're like, well, by day two, I'm going to be saving lives. That's what doctors do. First two years of medical school, they're going to be in the classroom, learning, taking tests, not a lot of hands-on the way that our model is. Won't be till years 3 and 4 when you can start maybe getting to the point where you can help, in the process of saving some lives. And there's that design's there for a reason, but it's disappointing to the students when I thought it was going to be this way and it's not this way. And so academic advising incorporates all of these different things. It's not just, okay, you come in, you take these 3 classes next semester, come back, take these 3 and 4 the next semester. There's a lot more that goes into it than just course scheduling and things like that. And appreciative advising, as I was reading the literature, was one of those emerging topics that had a high level of success after it had been implemented in different universities. So that kind of put it on my radar. So I've already told you guys, we did not have a model for advising at William Carey at all. We were definitely, certainly in the medical school, we were substandard when it came to advising for our students. So just show of hands, does anybody in here use a specific advising model? Right? What advising model is this? Oh, this model. Excellent. Well, you just chime in anytime and help. But not a lot of people are doing that, And so as a part of my dissertation, I'm not going to get into all of those results, but something I thought would be interesting for you guys to know, I sent a survey out to medical school faculty and asked them a few questions about advising, and I got over 500 responses. And so one of the things I asked them were, are your advisors trained? And it was kind of split down the middle. A little over half, 52% said no, they were not trained. And so then I asked them, does your school provide any parameters for, and I may not be able to see this very good, but does your school provide any parameters for advising? And almost 60% said no, not at all. And those that said yes commented and said, we have to meet with our advisees once per semester. So that was the parameter they meant. It wasn't anything bigger than that in a lot of cases. So then I asked them if their school used a specific advising model. And all that green there, 92% said no, we don't. And then lastly, would they be interested in learning new advising models? And over 80% of them said either yes or somewhat interested in that. And so this is from over 500 faculty from different osteopathic medical schools in the United States. And so that just helped reinforce what I was reading in the literature. You know, hey, this is a topic that probably needs to be addressed on a lot of different levels, not just our school and where we were. So how can I make an impact in that? So I told you I'd already seen some stuff about appreciative advising. Well, if you want to start looking at advising literature and all of the many types of theories there are out there, you will find a lot of these names out there. Tons of theories, tons of approaches, things that you can utilize in advising, and they're all good. They're all different ways that you can approach student situations, and none of them are a bad choice to have. But what stuck out to me about appreciative advising was that it incorporated a couple of these others. We'll get to that in a minute. So it incorporated a couple of these other models. And you could also use some of these approaches with it because it was really just a framework. It was really just a guide for your interaction with the students. If you wanted to incorporate some other type of theory while you were interacting with the students, it left flexibility to do that. And so that's what really drew me to this type of advising. So by definition, appreciative advising is the intentional, collaborative practice of asking positive, open-ended questions that help students optimize their educational experiences and achieve their dreams and potentials. It actually came from a model called appreciative inquiry. Have any of you heard of that before? So back in the 1980s, a man named David Cooperrider was going around and trying to institute organizational change. So if there was a factory or a place of business or something like that that had been in business for a long time and was just kind of starting to go down, then he would come in with his team using this appreciative inquiry model to help to spark a change in this company and in the employees and employee satisfaction and their productivity. And he followed a 4-step model to do that. And so appreciative advising, Dr. Jennifer Bloom, in 2006 or 7, she started thinking, you know, why couldn't I use that on higher education and with my students? And so she began adapting this with her team to be applicable to advising. And so in 2008 is when appreciative advising really hit the scenes. And there was lots of undergraduate universities that adopted this model, and the success was very highly noted from the students' perspective, from the faculty and staff perspective, and just the organizational culture changes in general. So as I was doing my research, I went a little bit further, and I wanted to know a little bit more about appreciative advising. So appreciative advising has these, there's a website, appreciativeadvising.net, that I can give you guys, and they're experts in appreciative advising. And these are individuals that have been in it since day one. They have been out there, they have been implementing it at different organizations, different institutions. And so I actually did some qualitative interviews, about 10 of them. They were about 60 minutes each with these experts. And so I asked them, I wanted to know a little more about it. Number one, I wanted to see, is there consistency in what they're saying? And number two, do I think that in my setting, in medical school, this could apply? And because I thought it was a big deal that it was in medical school. Like, I wonder if it'll matter that we have medical students. Well, what I found is that it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter what type of student you have. You can have an undergraduate student from all across every major in the university to a professional student to a postgraduate student, because what appreciative advising is interaction with another human. That is what it's focusing on. And they pointed out a few things here, and you've got this, we have handouts that has all these slides on here for you, but they pointed out a few things that one of the strengths of the appreciative advising model was that it was positive, it was positively centered, it was simple. So you didn't have to remember all of these, complex terms and make sure you did it in a certain way. It was very easy to follow for people without having to think, and it had a good theoretical foundation. And then when I asked these guys, hey, are there any weaknesses in the model? I kind of expected them to be like, absolutely not, because they're the experts, right? And they didn't do that. So I was like, okay, good. They said that, some people will say that it takes too much time to be an appreciative advisor. And I think I hear that in all kinds of advising realms. Like, it just takes a lot of time to do this. And then they'll say it's not realistic, that it's kind of pie in the sky. People will think, or they'll say that that's what they hear, is they think like, oh, this is pie in the sky. We're trying to achieve these great things and we're never going to get to them. And so that's the feedback that they get, that they get from people. And so then, in turn, they gave me ways to counteract that. So no, this is not the case, and this is why that's not the case. So I'll share those things with you as we go through each of the phases. So I thought that was really nice that they recognized that there were perceived weaknesses and then gave me a solution for those weaknesses. And then the biggest thing about trying to implement this type of advising framework is that it needs to be a complete buy-in. So the fact that you guys are here, step number one is complete. You're here, you're learning about it, and hopefully you're going to take it out and share it with others in your departments and your areas, and it can start to kind of catch on and have that buy-in from the university. And then make sure that you have adequate training. So if it's something that you really want to implement institutionally, then this is a great start, but you also need to have regular, little sessions, luncheons, things like that, where you can talk and develop your skills while you're doing it. So as we get started, the first thing we have to do is have an appreciative mindset. So what is that? Okay. Well, number one, I can tell you what it's not, and then that'll kind of help tell you what it is. So in general, people in general, I'm going to try to pull my slides over so I don't pull it back. People in general tend to have kind of a problem-solving mindset. And as I was reading about this the first time, and I read, okay, people have a problem-solving mindset, and they gave the scenario of a student comes in and they say, you know what, I am failing this class, whatever this class may be. I failed 2 tests now, I'm not doing well, and I don't know how to make it better. And so as you're their advisor, they say, oh, well, that's a writing intensive course. So you have to be a good writer in order to pass this course. So why don't you make sure that for your next assignment that you're following all of the guidelines, you're looking at the work ahead of time so that you're meeting the expectations of that instructor, and then go to the writing center and have the staff in the writing center help you with your paper before you turn it in, and then have a couple of other people proofread it. And that should help you out in that writing intensive course, and good luck. Let me know if you have anything else that we need to address. And I read that and I was like, what's wrong with that? That's great advice, and it is. But an appreciative mindset is looking at the bigger picture, right? So yes, we need to do those things. Nothing was wrong with that scenario at all. But why is this person always a bad writer, or are they really even a bad writer? Is there another issue? Maybe it's time management that this person really has the problem with, And if they're not a great writer, what's our major? Do we have the right major for this? Are they going to have plenty of other writing intensive courses that they're going to struggle with down the line? What's this person's personality? Are they on the right track? Just the bigger picture, all of these other questions that can play in. And so as you start thinking about that, you're like, well, that's like a full-time job, right? Like I can't do that with every kid that walks in my office, But that's why this is here. That's why you have an appreciative framework, so that you have something to follow. You can keep it succinct, and you can finish with each student and have enough time to do that. So it is different from problem solving. And then the next thing it's different from is make sure I said it right, deficit-based thinking. So I'm guilty of this one. I'm guilty of a lot of this stuff. So, I'm working on it. So this one is really focusing on negative things first. And in general, people do that all the time. So the example has been given a lot. So my kid brings home their report card, and we have 3 A's and an F. My first reaction, what is it?
Yeah.
What? Why do you have an F in that class? What were you doing? Did you not do your work? Did you not turn in? Have I seen any tests? Have you even been showing up? And I'm that person. That's just me, right? And so the fact that they made 3 A's, I never speak up, right? Until when the F is now a C, and I'm still mad about it. But, well, at least you didn't have an F in all your classes, And that's me, Well, that's bad. That's not bad. I'm not saying that. That's not appreciative. So the appreciative mindset is that we don't focus on where the student is failing first. We got to focus on it. That's our job. But we don't do it first. We focus on what they're good at first. And part of that is in relationship building. But another part of that is really in their confidence building as a college student. These kids are not, they're not confident in being college students. I mean, I've been in school my whole life, and I'm not always confident in schooling of certain types, depending on what I'm doing, And so if you beat them down, to a certain level, then they're going to not feel like they're ever going to be able to come. And so that's what the appreciative mindset does, is it says, okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about science in just a second, right? But good job on these other 3 A's that you did. What did you do in those classes? Why did you have an A in those 3 classes? What are you doing well in there? What do you like about them? And so you're learning a little bit more about that. Now let's focus on the F. Now we're still getting in trouble at my house for the F. I mean, it's happening. But we're not going to do it first. we're gonna talk about the other things first. And so that's kind of deficit-based theory. Now they did a little small study where they did the report card thing and sent it out to just people, not university people, but just people, and gauge their reactions when they saw this report card. And 77% of humans fussed about that F first. Yeah, so if y'all are like me, it's fine, But the biggest thing is we need to be aware we're that way, right? We need to know that that's what we're like, and we need to work to not be that way when we're in this type of environment. And really, I'm trying, it don't always work, but I'm trying to be appreciative at home with my children. I'm appreciative parenting, if that's a thing. I try to be appreciative in a lot of different things because I see the benefit of what it does at the end. And so you may end up adopting that as well. So I was telling you earlier that appreciative advising is founded in theory, and those 3 theories are here. The social constructivism theory, and that is the theory that talks about the interactions between people. And so a lot of what you'll find in this framework that you're going to learn about is that we focus on the interaction between the advisor and the student, and try to make sure that the student has an active role in the plan. And I also struggle, I'm going to get out of this meeting, y'all are going to be like, man, she struggles with everything I do. And so I struggle with this too. I'm like one of those people that the student walks in, and I guess it's because I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I want to be like, all right, you do this, and this, and that was great, you try to do that, but maybe you should try this way next time, and here's your plan, and if you don't do that, then you're not going to do it, all right? And then you can come back to me if you have any issues, and then get them out the door. I mean, I'm a dictator when it comes to those types of things. And so that's against this. That's okay to work on. I've had a lot of things to work on. And so that's against this. We really want to have that back and forth. We want to have them to have, the student have ownership in the plan and in what they're doing. And so not only is it more likely to be successful and that they've bought into it, but we're also training them to be good adults, right? And as they mature, then this is going to help them in other aspects of their life as well. The next theory is positive psychology, and I get a lot of flack on this one from my faculty at the med school. They are like, why are we showing butterflies to these students, right? And they say, I walked in the rain 100 miles barefoot uphill in the snow in North Dakota to go to medical school every day. And you hear those types of things going on. And so why are we having to be positive? Well, one reason is that research shows that the results that come out of positive psychology are far better than any other type of interactive psychology. And then aside from that too, we're dealing with a different generation of learner. I know y'all have all heard this time and time again, but the generation of students that are coming through as college students now are not like they used to be 40 years ago. They're different. Society's different. We parent them different. They're trained differently. They're expected to do different things, and they respond to this. And if you think that it doesn't matter if they know how to respond or not, then you may not be worried if they're going to be successful. And that's really, you should be, and you are. And so positive psychology is the other thing. And then lastly, appreciative inquiry. And I already talked about that, which is the change or the institutional, organizational change from David Cooper. So, I didn't even know I had things that pop up. I don't do that normally. Makes me nervous. have it up on the wall by my desk. And that way it's just a reminder to me, like, hey, where do we need to go next? And so the first stage is disarm. And we're going to go through each of these in like great detail. But just as a summary, that's just building the rapport with the student. That's your relationship building stage. Then next you're going to go to discover. And that's where you learn about the student. You learn what they're good at, what the problem is that they're there for to see you about. You're just discovering more about the student in this phase. Then dream. And this is where you formulate the vision with them for what they want to do and what we're trying to achieve. Next, design. This is where you develop your plan for whatever your project is. Then deliver, where the student implements that plan and you support them. And then lastly, don't settle, where we keep raising the bar. We keep aiming for a higher goal for that student. And so these are cute and they're catchy, and the wheel is easy to follow and a good reminder for how we're going to interact. Now, the important thing to know is this sounds like big picture things when you first hear about it. It's like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Type things. And that's a conversation you're going to have with a lot of these students. But it could be something as simple as, I got a hold on my account in financial aid. I can't get my transcripts in. And I don't know what to do. I mean, how many times have you heard stuff like that? I don't know what to do. I've gone everywhere I could possibly go. Nobody wants to help me. And I can't do this. And I'm going to fail. And I'm going to do, all of these different things. And it could be as simple as that. So we already, first we calm them down. We develop a little bit of a relationship. We discover where the problem is with this form. Where have you been? What have you done? What do you need it for? Okay, so we're discovering. We dream. What is our dream? Get the form signed. Sometimes it's get the form signed. Sometimes the dream is not like, woo, big dream. It's just like, something simple. Then how are we going to do that? Design the plan. They follow through with it. Okay? Well, sometimes raising the bar on that is, how can we not have a goal hold next semester? Whatever happened, let's not do it again. And that's going to be our raise the bar for this time. So it doesn't always have to be big picture things. And then the next thing is you don't always have to start at disarm and end at don't settle. Sometimes when we have a relationship with a student, a good relationship, we may never have to disarm, because we've already done that. They know me, I know them, we're good friends. Yeah, in the advisor-advisee context. A little conversation and we can move right along. Sometimes they have issues in delivery. That's a big thing. And so they're coming back to you. And you're just helping them at that point. So they don't have to be linear. You may have to jump in and jump out. But if you use this for the framework, then you have consistency with advising. Every student that comes in your office is going to have a similar experience. And there's not that follow-up or that lack of follow-up. Every time I see, I don't know if y'all seen this online, but it's like a funny that's on Facebook or on, wherever, and it says, sometimes I wonder whatever happened to that person I gave directions to. That's like half my life sometimes. It is. You just think like, okay, I gave you all this advice and I never heard from them again. Are they still in school? Did they make it? And you don't want that kind of thing to happen. So this keeps that from happening when you're following the framework. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about disarm now. And so we have some activities, and I think I think that when you guys probably read about the workshop, we said we were going to do a couple of scenarios at the end. I don't know if y'all even heard that, but I changed it a little bit. If we had group work, everybody's like, don't make me talk to anybody. So we're going to do activities throughout instead, and that just go along with each phase. And that way we can make sure that you understand each phase. There are a couple of scenarios that are interwoven in, but they're not just going to be holistic scenarios at the end. So I've changed it up. I hope everybody's okay with that. Some of our activities are a little hokey and lighthearted, but they still help to bring home the points. Hopefully you'll enjoy them. So disarm. We've talked about a lot of these things already. Put my page here. So building that relationship is arguably the most important part of this whole thing. Because if you don't have the relationship with the student, then they're not going to trust you. They're not going to be able to tell you all the things that they need to tell you. You're not going to be able to connect with them on that level. So this part of the process is super important. So developing that rapport with the student. So some different things you need to remember while you're doing that. Number one is to always be welcoming to the student. And sometimes this is hard. Sometimes you don't feel like you want students to walk in your office because you're busy and you have things to do. And it's okay to feel that way, but when they show up, stand up, smile, and shake their hand. And because that welcoming is going to be something that, helps open the door for you to help them later on. So the 4 S's are things that can help you remember how to be welcoming. So first thing is to smile. So smiling is contagious. It makes people feel good. And even if you don't love to smile all the time, if you learn to smile when people walk in the room, they're going to think you're a happy, smiley, fun-loving person. So smile, and that'll make people happier. The second thing is stand. I struggle with this one too. I started noticing after I read this that when students walk in my office, I don't stand up. They come to the door and they'll say, "Dr. Mary, you available?" And I'll be like, "Come on in, and come on in, yeah, you can have a seat," and I would never stand up, but let my dean bring somebody in my office. Boy, I had that seat so fast without thinking. I'm like, "Hello, welcome, nice to meet you," yes, and when I realized I did that, I was kind of embarrassed. I was like, I'm treating these students like they don't matter, and I know I didn't mean that, but I was doing it. And so just that alone, standing up when they come in, "Hey, yeah, come on in," and shaking their hand is a huge part of that welcoming piece. And so shaking their hand. Now, I'm a hugger. That don't mean hug everybody that walks in your office. But if the student is in there all the time and you're not a hugger, just tune me out. But if a student is coming in there all the time and you're a hugger, I ask them after it's been a little while, I'll be like, "Do you hug? Are you a hugger?" And you can always tell if they're not. They're like, "I can be." I'm like, "Never mind. You don't fit the bill to be a hugger, And so, but the ones that are, they're like, "Oh yeah, all the time." And so I do that. I'm a hugger. Now, one thing, I want to put the caveat here that you need to make sure that you know the cultural things that might go along with some students. Because I did not. And I am from Mississippi my whole life. I haven't been experienced to a whole lot of different cultures, and now I'm learning those things. And so if you work with a specific student population that is of a different culture, do a little research about that, because I felt real bad. I didn't know. So we have not a large, but we have a fair amount of students that are Muslim in our school. I had no idea it was offensive for the Muslim males to shake hands and especially hug a female. I have been hugging these poor guys for years. I'm like, "Come here. And nobody ever told me. They hugged me back, and they were like, "Oh, it's fine," and walked away. Well, then when somebody told me that, I was like, "Are you sure?" Like, I've been hugging a lot of people. Just because I hug. And then I read up more on it, and I was like, so do your research ahead of time, because you don't want to offend anybody. And luckily, my students have never been offended. They know my intention is to be friendly to them. But do your research just in case. And then the last thing for the 4 S's is to see, which just means to maintain eye contact with them. I have also had to work on that piece as well. I say I'm a good multitasker, but that really just means I work on a lot of things at once and don't accomplish anything. But so I'll be at my computer writing an email, somebody walks in and they're telling me something, I think I could finish this email and listen to them at the same time. No problem. But what does that say to the student? That says that I'm disinterested in the student. And really, if I do self-reflection, I'm not listening to it. Not really. I think I am, but I'm really not. So just put the email back. If you let them come in at that moment, then focus on what they're saying, make eye contact with them, and listen to them actively. The next thing is that your office should be safe and welcoming, and that's in the physical environment. So if you have a lot of paper stacked up everywhere and it looks like a bomb went off and all of that, that's not welcoming to anybody. right? Guilty. A lot of people, I see them. But it's not welcoming. I have been guilty of this one too. If I get busy, my desk goes away, like literally under the table, and it's all over the place. I remember one time when I was an undergrad student, I walked in one of my professor's offices, and there were books, and they looked like they had spilled all on the floor, and they were everywhere. And I was like, "Oh, did you have a spill?" And he was like, put all those there. I was like, all of those? Yeah, so you don't want to be that person, right? So having it moderately clean, just so it's not messy and stressful. And if you're Marie Kondo people, who y'all do Marie Kondo stuff? Have y'all watched that? Tidying Up on Netflix? Yeah. She's making me want to throw everything in my life away. No, minimalist. But you can do that with your office. And then having things that are personal about you in your office is also really welcoming to a student. So like pictures of your family, your children, your brothers and sisters, your parents, things like that. Your diplomas is also, it's a good place for them. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. And everybody that knows me knows I love Harry Potter. And so I have a whole Harry Potter wall. I have a Harry Potter stuff on my bookshelf, and I have a wand collection. And so, I'm quite proud. And the students, that's a talking point. They may not like Harry Potter, but it's just still, it makes me a human being. It makes me a real person that has real interest, and that brings them to a more comfortable space. And if they do, then that's something for us to talk about in our Disarm days. Using appropriate self-disclosure is good as far as if you have a story that relates to what the student is going through, like you've gone through something similar in your life, if you're comfortable sharing that, now if it's personal, don't share it, but if you're comfortable sharing that, like, you know what, I wasn't good at math either, and here's some things that I did to overcome that. Now, don't talk for 2 hours about yourself, just like short stories, but if you can make it relevant, the students appreciate that. That makes it like, you know what, they made it, look at her, she's a nurse now, or he is a, college professor, and that's what I'm trying to do one day. I mean, those types of things help the student to be like, you know what, I might could do better, I might can get there. And then the last thing is going to be body language, and I'm going to talk about these a little bit right here. So as far as your body language goes, things that are nonverbal sometimes carry more weight than the things that are verbal. So just the way you act, your posture, the way that you sit in the room, if your back's to them, if you seem tense or uncomfortable, all of those things actually scream louder messages than sometimes what you say. And so just being aware of that, and one of the little activities we'll do in a second talks a little bit about tone. But I think doing self-reflection at this point is really important. If you know you're one of these people that people often take the wrong way, there's a reason they take you the wrong way. You come across that way. And it's okay that you come across that way, but if you don't know you come across that way, that's where the problem lies, right? I know I'm loud. I've been loud my whole life. I mean, I have since I was a wee child, people would say, like, oh, her voice carries. Whole life. So I know that about me. I get in trouble a lot. Like, the students will be texting, and I'll be walking down the hall, shh, I don't get offended by it. I know I'm that way, right? But the problem is when you don't know you're a certain way. So some people will just come off harsh, They just kind of scream at you all the time, And some people are really quiet and mousy, like they're disinterested. Just knowing who you are is really important. So that way, if you kind of see that the student may be taking you that way, maybe you can adjust that for a minute just so you can develop that rapport, and then you can go back to being yourself. But just knowing who you are is half the battle. And then another thing for me that's a big deal is removing distractions. So I'm kind of like the little dog that says squirrel from that movie. I'm easily distracted. So if a student's sitting in my office and there's people walking down the hallway, every person that walks down the hallway, I'm going to look at them. I don't mean nothing by it. I just can't help it. And so I don't always close the door fully, but I may just close it too, so I don't notice all those people walking by, because it'll get me off track. I'm not listening anymore. I'm thinking about my grocery list. I'm not paying attention to anything that's going on because I got distracted by 2 seconds because this person was walking down the hall. And so I know that about myself, so I try to remove those distractions when they come into play. Some verbal things that you can do, calling the student by name. Also bad at this. I'm real good at the first letter of that name. So if it's Henry, I'm like, I can't even think of one. Harriet, but it's different genders. But I always get the first letter and I get the rest of the name wrong. So because I do that, I put students' names on calendar invites. Like if I schedule them to come in my office, I don't just put student meeting, I put student Dr. whomever it is. I also have a photo roster on my computer for each class saved so that I can look up, if I think that's the student, then I can look it up and make sure it is before I call them by name. And sometimes I'm just like, hey, there's a lot of you and there's one of me. Tell me your name one more time. So I know you, I know all this stuff about you, but tell me your name one more time. And so anytime you can commit their names from memory is really a good idea to do that. Unrelated small talk. So as I started this meeting, I mentioned the weather. The weather is a great topic to talk about. Everybody likes to talk about the weather. It's something that everybody can relate to on any level. And so just bringing up something as they come in the door. If a student's coming in to see me and I don't know them, I don't know anything about them, I don't have anything to ask them about, when they walk in that's unrelated, then, like today I would say, well, did you have to park your boat outside? I mean, it's raining hard, or something, just something to kind of break the ice. And that usually works really well as far as getting them to warm up to you. Asking them for feedback and giving them feedback is super important during this phase as well. And so if a student comes in, so like this is a scenario you might see a lot. A student will come in and they're mad about something. They're mad, nobody does their job, nobody cares about them, nobody has that form that they need to sign. It's just terrible. Listen to them. Listen to them, give them a chance to vent a little and appropriately. Now, I'm very motherly with my students. And so if we start crossing that professionalism border, I'll be like, hey, we can talk about this and you can be mad about this, but we're not going to be unprofessional about this, right? So back up, now tell me why you're upset, and so I do, I parent them in that way because it's important not to let them cross boundaries, but ask for their feedback, ask them what they've been through, and then that starts leading us into discover as well. And then the last thing that the Appreciative Advising text recommends doing is using your own first name when you can. And I realize that that's sometimes okay, and that's sometimes not okay. In my world, it's not okay. Every student at the medical school calls me Dr. Merritt. They call every professor they have Dr. Whoever, or they call every staff member Miss or Mr. Whoever. So that's just a level of professionalism that they're expected to keep because of the profession that they're in. And so for us, that's not okay. In your world, it may be okay. And if you're comfortable with that, it's a great thing to utilize. But what you can do is, so if I'm trying to relate a story, well, back when I was in college and I was struggling with these things, I had a mentor tell me one time, Michaela, you need to, and so I'll use my first name in that context. So I'm telling them the story. So I'm not saying like, it's okay if you call me that. I'm just saying like other people do, because I'm a human too, and we're relatable, and let this work, right? And so that may be a way you're able to bring it in like that. Okay, so we're gonna do a little fun activity here. So this, for those of you who are not aware of how you sound, and some of you may be. We're gonna do these. Say these 4 different phrases. I'm gonna do the first one for you. But at your table there, or with a partner that's right next to you, then you're gonna say like you're late. So I'll start with that one. In these 4 different ways. So you're gonna be angry, bored, surprised, and content. Always saying that, and it's amazing the way that one word, your contractions, that's almost 3, 2.5 words, comes across when it's just the tone, it's just the way that you say it. So, all right, y'all are going to laugh, because I tried to practice this, no one was laughing. So I was like, I'll just do it while we're up there. So you're late. You're late! So that's mad, right? I'm mad about it. All right, bored. You're late. Surprise. Ooh, you're late! And then content. Well, you're late. So if I did, yeah, you're late. So am I. That's usually it. I was like, well, I'm late. way that people are like, oh, you know, and it's usually because I'm loud. It's not even that I say it in a way that's, the tone is super different, but I'm loud when I say things. They're like, whoa, she cares. I'm just loud, right? And so little self-reflection, just the realization that this tone matters and the difference that it makes. All right, so with your groups there, with maybe the person right next to you, go through these other three. It's nice to see you. Welcome, and can I help you in those ways? If you can't see, it's on page 5 of your handout. All right, so go ahead. I'm so proud of y'all. You did a good job of that. Everybody, I can see the buy-in. And one point that came out up here was that some of them are easier. What, pray tell, might that mean, right? Maybe you use that tone more often, and that's why it's easier. So if the angry tone is like super easy for you, maybe you have angry tone things that you say more often. And I've got a lot of kids, so that's like a possible thing for me, you know. So anything that anybody got out of that they want to point out is relevant to the group.
I find that my accent, is way more aggressive.
Yeah.
In the South.
Yeah.
Than anywhere else I've lived.
I would have to agree with that, just because that it's different from being here. And you know, we find, and there's actually a lot of stigma that goes with accents, no matter where you are. You know, like if I go up, I mean, I'm very clearly from Mississippi. You know, from GoTown. And even when I moved down to Hattiesburg, like I thought I was moving further south, and so it was going to be worse. It is not. And so I came down there, and they were like, "What hole did you fall in?" And so I had to talk faster and so I feel like I've adjusted a little bit, you know, as I've grown into an adult. But you're right, the accent does play a part in it, and sometimes they're easier than others because of that. But hopefully that was a little bit of good self-reflection for you. So now we have one other activity that we're going to do. So for disarm, and then we'll move into discover. So in the back behind your packets, you've got these freestanding pages here. Page 23. You should have 2 of those. You have 2 page 23s. Okay. So this is another little self-reflection piece for disarm. Does everybody have 2? All right. It's going to be page 23, disarm, at the top. Yeah. Okay. So this is just a little bit more like get to know yourself type thing. So first, with the first sheet, you're going to circle 5 things on this personality sheet. So you see the little box that's got all the personality descriptors in it. You're going to circle 5 things that you feel like describes your personality the best. Then after you circle those 5 things, I'm going to give you and your neighbor 1 minute to talk. And you're going to act like you're a new advisee or a new colleague. You're going to tell them about yourself in 1 minute. And then they're going to circle what 5 things they got off of you, what they think fits your personality after that 1 minute of talking to you. And then y'all will swap and do that. I'll do that on the other person. Then we're going to compare what they said about your personality to what you said about your personality. Okay? Okay, so first take a couple minutes and circle your 5 things. Not a couple minutes, should take it down. Alright, so once you have your 5 circled, turn it over and keep it to yourself. Alright, so now decide, you and your partner, decide who is going to talk first and who's going to listen first. Get ready. So you're going to be, whoever's talking first is either going to be a new advisee or a new colleague, whichever one you're more comfortable being. And like you don't know this person. So you probably know this person, you may not. But pretend like you don't know this person and tell them about yourself. All right, just like you're introducing yourself, like I'm a student, this is what I'm doing, this is what I think I want to do in my life, or I'm a colleague, this is what my work experience is, and all of that, okay? So just like you're a new person and you're introducing yourself. All right, so we're going to get started. So the first person, I'm going to time you, and I'm going to tell you when to stop. All right, ready, go. All right, so we're ready for the next person to talk? All right. Go ahead. Okay, so now reflect on the person you just listened to, and then y'all swap papers back. And I want you, once you get your paper back from your partner, to compare. Compare what you think about yourself versus what they perceived from that conversation, okay? And then I'll ask y'all a couple of questions, and if you're comfortable sharing those, kind of some of the differences and some things that you see, then I would appreciate that. So take a couple of minutes and just reflect on your answers versus theirs. All right, so let's pull it back in, guys. Okay, so in general, if anybody would like to comment, that'd be great. How accurate were you about yourself? Sort of. That's good. That's good. Was there anything that surprised you? Begrudgingly? No.
We talked about afterwards, and I understand what she's saying. So,
That was reserved. You were all.
what?
Do tell. That's explained.
What she meant was that I don't I don't reveal too much about myself.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's bold.
She's bold and reserved. Yes. But she only has one personality, so we're great. Yeah. No, that's good. You got it.
Once you get to know me, I'm an open book, but
Right, but somebody you first met, which is what this was. Yeah. All right, so we have another one back here that you said was something different?
Can I
Yeah.
say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My friend Brian Anderson. We do know each other pretty well, but we try to stick to the conversation. We both thought that I was hilarious.
Are you good? No.
Right now.
Joke. Yeah. You don't have to answer that.
And we decided that we both picked these words. I picked caring for Brian, and he picked helpful. And so we picked the caring and helpful.
They could be the same idea, right?
I said I was gregarious, and Brian didn't say that. He was very complimentary. He said sincere and thoughtful. I said gregarious and lively.
Well, that's good. And if that's the way you want to come off to people when you first meet them, then keep it up. That's what you need to do. And that's really the purpose of this, is to see how other people perceive you, you know. And so if there is something, so are you happy with that first impression? If you are, keep it the same. If you're not, then that's when, hey, let's do something to change this. Let's make, let's do it a little bit differently. And of course, this would be even better in the context of somebody you really didn't know at all. And especially if it were a student that you didn't know. You just had them fill this out about you. You could really get some real words, real descriptors at that point. But this is still good. It's still a starting point for you in the disarm phase. Okay, so we're going to move along. So that was disarm. Now that's a big pie. I know we spent a long time on that, but that's a big piece of the pie. So I wanted to spend a little bit longer on it. And so we're going to move into discover, being the next phase of appreciative advising. And this phase, the activity that goes along with it is a little bit, it's a little long. But the rest of them after that are going to be a little bit shorter. But the reason why this phase is so hard is that you should focus on using open-ended questions. And that's drawing out things out of that student so that you can learn about them. And this kind of ties into my need to control the conversation that I was telling y'all about. So I have a tendency just to, tell them what I'm thinking and say, is that right? Yes or no questions, basically. And it may not be wrong what I'm saying, but it's not really the root of the issue that we're trying to get to. And so by allowing that student to speak openly and to answer a question that is an open-ended question, then you're going to truly see stuff that you may not have been thinking about. We may have been going down this little tunnel, and it's really a broader road, and we didn't know that because we didn't allow the students to talk. Now, one component of this phase is that you have to be okay with silence, and I'm not. Like, I talk a lot, right? Well, that's because if I'm around people, especially one-on-one, so me in this setting is better for me than talking one-on-one sometimes with people I don't know. That's just my personality. That's just how I am. And I know that, and it's okay, you know, but I know that about myself. So when I have a student in my office that I don't know very well, I feel like I need to fill the space with words. And so if there's just like a moment where nobody's talking, I'm not comfortable with that. So I feel like I need to be the one to talk. Well, then what happens? I take over the conversation, and we're out of this, right? And so this is something that I really had to work on, was using open-ended questions, allowing them to get their head together, you know, and then answer the question. Now, if they can't answer the question, I can help them along, right? But give them an opportunity to talk and to answer whatever question that you have asked them. And then one thing, you can notice when the students are comfortable or uncomfortable while they're talking. So if they're kind of uncomfortable talking about something, then it may mean that that's the thing we need to be focusing on. Or it may be that, you know, that something else is going on with that. But if they are comfortable talking about, you know, the things that they like to do and that kind of stuff, then that may be, you know what, we need to focus on this. This is what this person loves, you know. The whole reason this person is in college is because they want to have a career that they get to dictate in what world it's in, right? They didn't come to college so that they could just pick any old job off the shelf. They came to college so they could do something that they wanted. And so that's our job, you know, is to kind of help them get to that point, to learn what they're good at, even when they don't even know what they're good at, and to help them kind of get to that point. So, some different things we can do to do that. So some questions, and it's always good to have questions that are kind of pre-prepared that you ask any student that when you're first meeting them. So a few examples of that are up here. So we're wanting to learn about them. We're wanting to learn what they're good at. We want to learn if they have a problem. We want to learn more about that problem. But in general, you know, we just want to discover more about this person. So some examples of this. So what accomplishment are you most proud of and why? That's a tough question. So they may have to think about that one. Describe 3 life events that have made you into the person that you are today.
I think some of my values brings up.
They probably will. They probably will. Like, ooh, that's deep for Monday morning, right? So maybe start with like half of that question. You know what I mean? But make it open-ended and only do one of them. You know, because you have to ease them into that. If they're super clammy, then you're not going to open that shell in one meeting sometimes. You know, sometimes it's going to take several meetings to get there. Since coming to this program, what's something you've accomplished that you're proud of? What have you done good since you've been here? What are some things that you feel should be improved upon? So this is a student coming to you and they fell in their class. Okay, so what are you good at? What are you doing good in? Classes you're doing well in, what are you doing at those? And then again, so what are you not doing? So what's something you can improve upon in this class you're not doing well? And just see where they are. Then you may have to help dive into some of it, but they may already kind of have an idea, and it may not be what you're thinking, you know. And then for you as the advisor, make sure that you rephrase what they told you, and that shows that you're listening. And then if you got something wrong, then, because I may have gotten out of that whole thing that Johnny wants to be an astronaut, and that's not it at all. He really likes making stuff, and he just talked about a spacecraft in the middle of that, and now I'm off on a whole different thing. So I mean, that's kind of a grandiose example, but you know, rephrase it so that they understand that you understand what they're saying. And always highlight their strengths. So this is positive, right? Oh wow, well that's great that you were in this club in high school and that you enjoyed it. You know, so here's some things that we have that might be along those same lines that you would enjoy doing as well. Or here's some degree plans that are in that same topic area that you might enjoy as well. And then you know, saying I'm impressed by the fact that you did that. And so let's move forward from that. So just kind of reaffirming, summarizing what they're saying, and then using these open-ended questions is the big picture. Yes, ma'am.
So when a student reveals something that's absolutely horrific, and they often will,
Right.
ask a question like, so what events have you had that have made you who you are today? And you get something horrific.
Right.
How do you respond to that in a professional manner that's also empathetic and supportive?
I've gotten some of that too. Well, first of all, So it's a little bit different when you hear something that's kind of like that, because I need to make sure it's not something ongoing right now that we need to report to our, the office that you report those things to. Because even if a student says like, can I tell you something? You got to promise not to tell anybody. I can't promise that. Depending on what it is, I may have to tell. And so I let them know that up front if they say something like that. But if I've heard, so we get a lot of those stories in medicine, kind of the big major things that drove me to want to be a doctor. And so I cared for my grandfather when he was dying of colorectal cancer, and I had to do all of these things, and we had no money and very little health care because we were in this foreign country, and those types of things. And I always sympathize with him. It's like, I'm so sorry that you've gone through that, but the fact that you did go through that and that you can tell me about it shows me that you really learned a lot from that experience, and I think that's made you into the person you are today. And that person is going to be somebody that's going to help somebody else. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being that person that's going to help somebody else because of the experience you've been through. So kind of that level of stuff. You'll also hear things that, child abuse type situations that have been long resolved. This person's an adult at this point, but it's led them to wanting to go down this advocacy route or whatever line that they want to go down, like they want to be a psychiatrist or something like that in my world. And just hearing those stories it kills me. I struggle. I really do. I struggle with it. I actually listened yesterday. They have a luncheon down in Hattiesburg at USM that Elizabeth Smart, y'all are aware of her situation, kidnapped when she was 14, was the keynote speaker. And I didn't even know that she was the keynote speaker. I was told to go to lunch. So I went to lunch, and I was like, oh, wow. And then they started saying, I was blindsided. And she told her story, and she told it from a standpoint, not to be sad, but from a standpoint of like hope and recovery, and this is what I've gotten out of it, and forgiveness, which is for yourself, not for the person that you're actually forgiving. And so she was very positive, but boy, I was just like, my heart was wrenching. I don't know if I do have a lot of hormones too. But I was just on the verge of tears and tearing up the entire time, and that's how I feel with these students too, just some of the things that they've had to go through. But that's kind of the approach I give is look at what it's made you into, and thank you for being that person, and I know you're going to do great things because you're that person. Does that answer your question? Oh, that was fast. Okay. So that's really the point of this thing, of this whole section, is just to learn about that person and just to use those open-ended questions. And the student is kind of dictating to you what the overarching topic is. So either y'all are in here talking about degree plans, or you're in here talking about a problem in class, or you're in here talking about that darn form, or you're in here talking about something, right? And so they're kind of telling you, that's where we're starting. We're on a starting point here. But we still have things that you can, so remember we talked about the problem-based mindset earlier. So we want to fix the problem, no matter what it is. But we also want to make sure that we're addressing these bigger picture items. We still want to know them as a person. We still want to know what they're good at. We still want to know all of these things, And so this person may be coming in here because they're failing math. Well, they're bad at math. And they're just bad at math, right? So we're going to help you get through math. But let's look for something that's not math for you, like as in the big picture of things. You're going to have to take projects on this. But what are you good at? And what do you like? Clearly it's not math, right? And so that's kind of the purpose of this phase, is for you to get to know that person from that standpoint. Okay, so we're into the next activity already. It's been fast. All right,
you
so
can hear it, it's just not picking it up on the
your
voice character recognition.
So this is our scenario based. And this one's tough for me because then you have to think of the open-ended questions to ask this person. All right, so we've got the scenario. So in your partners, you're going to have one person who's going to be person 1, and one person is going to be person 2. And so there's 2 prompts, so you'll each do 2 scenarios, and I'll just let y'all do them on your own time. So you'll do one, and then you'll start the next one once you finish that. But prompt A, so one person is going to be, whoever's person 1 will be the advisor. You're going to read the prompt, so you're going to learn about what your situation is. And then whoever person 2 is their prompt A, they're the student. And so y'all are going to have that interaction, And the advisor, you need to ask open-ended questions to the student about their situation and try to draw out those discoveries by using those open-ended questions. So we don't have to do the whole production. So you don't have to disarm and smile and stand, all those things. Eventually, we do want the production, but today we're just discovering right this second. And so try to use those open-ended questions to draw out. And then, so once you've gone through that and you feel like you've drawn out everything you can draw out from that student, then y'all swap spots, and not physically. And you're going to do prompt B, and y'all are going to essentially, the person that was the student is now the advisor, and the advisor is now the student. And then you're going to do the same thing again, drawing out those open-ended questions to draw out the things that you need to discover about that student. Okay? Any questions? All right, so pick who's going first, or person 1 and person 2, and go ahead and get started. All right, let's pull it back in. I'm sorry we didn't have quite enough time to finish, but it seems like most people was on the line and hopefully finish it up. So, was that hard? It was? What was hard about it?
That's hard because
the student was not sharing with the advisor. Very good.
Yes, I'm gonna put it in your mail, I mean, your email this afternoon. I just know that I don't want to come up with it. Yes, me too. I know I have that somewhere.
we had one scenario.
We got it, don't you worry, we got it.
You're right. Right. Well, luckily you don't have to only, so that's good at least. But you can just hone in your advisor role real good. Yeah, that's good. I mean that's difficult in any of these situations that we're in because we're trying to be both things and we're not the student anymore. We've been on the other side of that for so long, you know. So it's very difficult to get the student to share and to get them to open up. What else did you guys notice?
Karen was great, and she had so many excuses.
Oh, yeah. That's very good. Nothing was wrong.
Well, how are you feeling about this? And she said, wow, I just don't have time, and I gotta work, and I have money, and lots of classes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, last week.
Right. So was it hard asking open-ended questions? Yeah. So some people said it was okay, and then some people said it was hard. Yeah. Because naturally you probably wouldn't have. That's me all day long. I'm a closed question asker right here.
I'm sorry, and so open-ended questions, so I get you to tell me, then I want to give you a plan.
Yeah. And that's a start, right? So you're not going to fix the world in a day. You're not going to fix the world in a conversation. You're not going to make this little student that doesn't want to share anything all of a sudden be an open book in one conversation. It's not going to happen. But the way that you can work on that is using these open-ended conversations. Forcing them to talk is a great way to get them to start talking. Obviously, they still may clam up. They still may not have much to share. But they're going to be uncomfortable with that silence, too. That same problem I have when you're just sitting there waiting on them to talk. They're going to be like, I have to say something. Yeah. And so they'll come up with something to say. It may not make sense, and it may not, it may not be where we want to get to. And so sometimes that just disarm and discover phase, you may not even get there through that first session. You got to do what you got to do. We got to focus the team. You may have to tell them, hey, we got to do this today, right? Because we're supposed to do this today. But I need you to come back because we're not where we want you to be. Yeah, come back. Yeah, because you're not going to always get there in one day. And it's not a natural progression for some students to be sharing. But the more they're around you, the more they meet with you. If your university says meet with your student once per semester and that's all they meet you, they don't want to do it. And they're not going to ever share with you in one time. So the more that you meet with them and they know who you are and you fit them in, and you may have to say, I'm a really busy person, so you can't come to my office for 2 hours. Like, that's not an option. So I have to say, 30 minutes. Is all I'm going to be able to give you. But if you can come back next Thursday from 2 to 2:30, then I want to continue this conversation. And if we need another one, we'll set up another one after that. But that's all the time I'm going to have. Just because, you know, somebody could come in and it could be all afternoon. We don't have all afternoon, you know. But you're right. You may not fix it. The world may not come together in the one day that they're there. But that's what you got to do. Okay, so we've disarmed, we're discovering, maybe we're almost discovering, because there might be a difficult student, but we're trying to discover. So now we're going to help that student dream. This is really us formulating a vision for what the best case scenario would be. Again, this may be, you know, big picture things. So if you see yourself on Time magazine and 20 years from now, what would you be famous for? You know, I mean, it can be big picture things like that. My faculty hate that example. They're like, you know, they're not going to be on Time magazine, you know, it's ridiculous. You know, pie in the sky, you know, type of thing. And it's not always that. But the idea is that we want to know where their heart is and where we're trying to get to. So no, they're not all going to be. Let's not feed them lies that we're trying to, you know, you're going to be rich and famous and have 12 cars and, you know, and all of those things. No, we're not trying to do that. We're just really trying to use a big example to get to where that person's heart is and what we can help them achieve. If we're dreaming for them, you know, or helping them. We're not dreaming for them. We're not doing it. If we're looking in to see what their dream is, and if we're trying to help them achieve that, and then ultimately, whatever that dream is for them, then we're going to make them a goal to help them get there. You know, so in my world, we already have students that are already going to be doctors, right? So you would think that's the dream, and at some level, that is the dream for some undergraduate students. But once I get them, it's not just I want to be a doctor anymore. No, it's I want to be a surgeon, you know, or I want to be an internist, or I want to be a pediatrician. Now we're starting to refine that goal a little bit more. How do I get to that point, you know? And some of them don't know what they want to be. So I'm like, okay, well, what do you see your work day as? You know, when you grow up, when you get out of here, what do you see your work day as? Well, I want to be home every night with my children. Whoa. We narrowed it down right there. You know, I only want to be in the hospital, and I don't like cradle to grave, and I don't like all of these things. I just want to see them and get out. You know, I mean, we're trying to, you know, like I can help people based off of what they want to do and what they see their life like. And so that's kind of that's how I use this dream phase for that scenario. And I'm sure you can apply it to yours as well. So one thing we have to make sure we do as advisors is we have to listen to them. Sometimes what they say and what I'm hearing is not always the same. I want to actively listen, and then once I've listened to them, I'm going to restate what they said to make sure I understand it. So we've discovered that you're really good at computers, right? So we've got a relationship. We've discovered that they're techie, and that's great. And so now we're on to the dream. What do you see yourself doing with that? Oh, you like to write computer programs? Oh, that's excellent. So what would your dream job be in doing that? Oh, I'd like to work for this company and do these things. Well, what types of jobs does that company employ? What type of people do they need? Well, let's look into that. And then we can kind of start formulating what that dream is for them. And so it's definitely different. But the key is kind of connecting that discover phrase with this dream phase. You know, if I am not good at math, but whatever my dream is has a lot, it's pretty math heavy, well, at that point, we're going to have to talk about, well, our discover phase and our dream phase are not lining up, okay? So we want to make sure that we see that these two things go together, and that's my job, is to help you do that, you know? So I've already told you some questions. So when you envision your life as a professional, what do you see? What are some things that you would like to accomplish during your time in this program? Sometimes that dream is to pass their next test. And if that's all we're dreaming about right then, I am dreaming it with them. Okay, we're going to work on developing a plan to pass this next test. And so it's not always those big picture things. But we want to make sure that, again, we're looking at that person as a whole and that we are understanding them from an appreciative mindset. So what are some skills that you would like to refine and master to help you achieve your goals? What are 3 accomplishments you intend to finish within 5 years from today? So these are just some different examples. Again, they're open-ended, right? But it just gets them kind of thinking of that. And and what their life could be like. This is kind of like you bring them back to elementary school, right? Because every little kid, well, a lot of little kids, you know, they say, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I want to dig up dinosaur bones. I want to be a paleontologist, you know, and they think about what would be the coolest thing for me to do. Well, then life happens, and you're not like that excited about it anymore. So this kind of brings them back to that, you know. When my two oldest ones were young, I think my daughter was 3 and my son was 2 or maybe 3 and 4. But anyway, I asked my daughter, I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? She said, a mommy. And I was like, and I looked at my son and I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, a horse. So hopefully we made it like past that. You know, but this is, I think that's really what it is. This is kind of like bringing them back to that. You know, sometimes I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Look at all my background, very varied. My research interests are different from my current job duties, and that's because I find things that bring me joy and things I like to do, and then I do them. You know, and that may be different from something else I'm doing, but I may find joy in multiple areas of my life. And it may be that student does too, but we got to get to that point, right? And we got to see what they like to do, what they're good at, and what they see themselves doing and being happy and successful on that, right?
So what do we do when there's too big a disconnect?
Oh.
When, you know, I'll have a student come in, they may be on academic probation because they got a 0.6 GPA last semester. So tell me, where do we go from here? I'm going to med school. No, right. You're probably not going to graduate as an undergrad.
Right.
You know.
I think that in that scenario, and I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I've seen students like that too, especially when I worked on the undergraduate side, and even now I have students that, you know, I'm going to be a surgeon, and their board scores are nowhere near where they're going to be a surgeon, and I have to tell them that, you know. And so I think being realistic with them is important. Now, from the appreciative mindset, you would start off and say, let me tell you the things you're good at, okay? And let's talk about the things you're good at. Now, here are the things that you're going to have to improve upon. And one of these things is that 0.6 GPA. You are a long way from ever being in the ballpark of being in a professional school of any kind. So if we want to achieve that, then you've got to hit this point, this point, this point, this point, and this point, all between there to make that happen. So let's start with this point for now. We got to get your GPA. So how are we going to do that next semester? And I think for that student, focusing on that dream as being a goal, like a short-term goal. Because you don't want to just kick them off and, you know, then think like, well, if my dream of being a doctor is over, then I might as well quit college. Yeah. And so you don't want to kick them to the point that they jump to that conclusion by any means, but you got to be realistic with them. You this can't be so flowery that you're like, well, you're going to get there one day knowing they ain't ever going to get there. Ever. If they stay on
I'm
this
on
path.
the opposite extreme. I'm more for the violent cranial rectal extraction.
Right. Well, you can be. I have some of those people that also employ this too. But you have to add your own flavor to it. You really do. And utilize this approach and be yourself while you do it. But try to at least point out something positive in each step. I would say that would be my goal for you as you were trying to adopt this. Like if you were going to adopt it, then...
Don't have to.
That's okay. I mean, like, that's fine. And I work with a lot of people that are like that. And they have been able to incorporate some of this. If nothing else, we start with the framework. You know, and okay, let's follow the framework. And then if we can get a positive line in every now and then, we're getting there. So it's the same thing for you in adopting this. If this is not your cup of tea right off the bat, it doesn't mean it won't be eventually, or that it can't still be useful for you, you know?
And what do you do when you've been realistic with them and you tell them, and then they still, I'm going to go to graduate school? You're not.
Well, I say at that point,
You're not, but I'm like,
yeah, we are a long way from being able to make that determination. Yeah, that's my answer to that, you know? And first thing we've got to start with this again, bring it down, bring it to that first step and say, this is our goal right now, this is our dream, I'm going to help you make a plan to do this. And then you're going to deliver that plan, and then we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to go to the next step, okay? So let's not get our cart before our horse. And I want to be realistic with you, that you know you have a long way to go. And I'm going to help you every bit that I possibly can. But we got to start with step one. And so that's kind of my approach with those students. Because we certainly see that there's a lot of intrusive advising type things that go along with kind of my world that I'm in, where it's supposed to be hard. You know, we can't be okay if somebody kills a patient because they made a simple error. Like, that's not okay, you know, so we have to, you know, there has to be times that we're tough on these students and we say, no, this is a hard line, you know, but the rapport that we've developed with these students and the things that we've done that we can be appreciative in lead to that moment, and that moment is more beneficial for them when I say, hey, this is a hard no, you know, and this is why, and they respect me for it, they will never do it again. You know, they've learned from it, and it's all about the relationship that we've made between now and then and these other interactions that we could be a little more positive with, you know, or at least in my experience. So that's your dream, and I'm not going to do this activity for time's sake because we have a couple of others to do, and I'm not good at it anyway, that's why I want to pull it out, but I'm not like a yoga person or meditating person at all. I think those things are awesome, I'm just not. And so one thing that you can do, I was going to do with you guys, and you can do on your own, or you can do with your student, is do some imagery. So you have your closing your eyes and you're thinking like, what would my perfect day be like today? I go through everything. I go through waking up in the morning, getting ready. Not my perfect day in Tahiti, like my perfect day going to work. So let's clarify that. And what would I have for breakfast? What would my morning commute be like? What's my neighborhood like? Do I like my neighbors? Do I like what my surroundings are? What are my tasks at work today? What fulfills me? What do I get joy out of with these morning tasks? What do I have for lunch? And go through your whole day. You think like, what would my perfect day be like? And then just reflect on that. You know, it can be something as simple as like what your day is, could be what you're dreaming about, and what you're trying to achieve in your life that's trying to make it like fulfilling. You know, and that's kind of what you're doing with the students. You know, just thinking like it doesn't have to be Time Magazine. You know, it doesn't have to be med school. It doesn't have to be those big things. It can be something smaller, but using imagery to have them like, you know, think about picture themselves doing this thing. Is really helpful in this phase as well. The perfect day, we just did it. Okay, so we've disarmed, discovered, dreamed, and now we have to design our plan with this person. So this is where I think, like you were talking about, okay, we've done all that stuff, we did great, now here's your plan. All right, so we want to make sure we don't do that. We want them involved in the plan. And so I have an example. Our activity is going to be when you design the plan and they didn't. All right, so that's what the activity is. So it's a good one. So we're going to make sure we talk to them step by step for what they need to do. So we are the ones with the knowledge, right? We've seen students with these problems all the time. So we are the ones telling them the things that they need to do, but we have to make sure they understand it. And we have to make sure that they have a voice in it, because they may have option A or B. We don't want to say option A is the option. We want to give them the options. Talk about the pros and cons of it. Let them have input on it. And there's something big called the curse of knowledge, and that's what all of us in this room have. So we have all this knowledge, and we just assume they understand the words that are coming out of our mouth. That's a bad assumption. And so we need to make sure we break it down, and that they tell us what we just said to them so that they understand it. Because a lot of times in medicine, we have acronyms galore. I can have a whole conversation using an acronym every third word. And it makes sense. And they have no idea what I'm talking about. And so avoid using those acronyms. Explain things in a way that they can understand it. And you can even say, if I'm being too simplistic with this, please forgive me. I just want to make sure you understand it. And so they may have some knowledge already. But just make sure that you talk to them in a way that they can understand and that they are ready to go with the plan and ready to implement it. Discuss those pros and cons. Discuss, if you do this route, then this is a negative with this route. This is a positive with this route. These are some ramifications that you need to consider. Things like that. And then if they have options, then you make them go do homework. You say, excuse me, so I want you to go and I want you to look these up and you come back with me next week. and tell me which option you are most comfortable. So do those things. Another big part of this stage is making effective referrals. So if the student, that form, you're talking about the form this whole time. If that student can't find that form, this is never going to work. So we want to make sure that we not only refer him to the right office that has the form, but we want to tell him what building that office is located in. When you walk in that, do you know where that building is? It's up to the front of campus by this. Oh yeah, I know where that is. Okay, when you walk in that building, you're going to look to the left, and you're going to see the financial aid office, or whatever office it is. And then if you want to, which is recommended, go that extra mile and already have you a contact list of people in these offices. So, I'm going to call Sharon. Sharon, hey, I got this student coming over there. I just wanted to let you know that they were going to be on their way. And then you tell the student, Sharon's going to be expecting you, And the student's like, oh, I'm important, I know what office to go to. I'm going to get this form signed. I don't do better, right? And so making those effective referrals is a major part of this step. And a lot of times this is where students, they start crumbling because they get the runaround. And we just want to make sure that they don't have the runaround. Make sure that your goals for this plan, whatever this plan may be, are SMART. So that's, if y'all haven't heard that before, specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. So we make goals that are achievable. We don't make big goals like, my goal is to get into medical school, period. We got to bring it down a little bit. Okay, so what are our goals? Well, it may be to get to that office and get that form. It may be to sign up for these resources so that I can pass this class. It may be to start a study group with at least 3 people and us meet twice a week during this class. That may be one of our goals. So make sure that they're measurable and they're realistic, and that you always have a timeline on there for that student. Okay, well, when are you going to do that? Okay, no, not tomorrow. That's not realistic. Next week? All right, great. So now, are you going to follow up with me, or am I going to, I actually don't give that second option. When are you going to follow up? Because I'm a bad follow-upper, and I know it. So I want them to contact me, and then I can be like, oh, great, And so they know that their role is to email me once they get this done, and they're going to do it in a week. And so I just already established that. It's all in the plan. We've designed it all out, and they know how to deliver, and then I'll be there to help them when they, do or don't do well. Okay, so I do want to do this little activity here. We're running close on time. I think I can wrap it up after that. It's really simple, so I don't think it'll take long. Use your last sheet that 60. Okay, so with your partner, this is super fast, guys, but it really brings home the point. Don't tell your partner which song you pick. You're going to pick a song out of that little box, and you're going to tap that song. Don't sing it. Don't tell them. You're going to tap it. And they have to guess what song it is. Okay? And then y'all will swap and do the same thing. Shouldn't take but just a minute. No more than 3 guesses because they have the options on this sheet here. Okay? Actually, let's stick with 2. No more than 2 guesses because you have the options on this sheet. All right? All right, so go ahead. know, like the word sound, because you may not know what words, but you know the words of the song, you're tapping it, you're humming it in your head, and you can't understand why they don't hear that. You're like, it's clearly Mary had a little lamb, like, because I'm saying it in my head, right? But the person on the outside, all they hear is this tapping. There's a cadence to it, but they can't place it. That's how the student feels when you make the plan, and they don't really get it, right? So you're telling them the plan, but they're not all in. They don't hear the music. They don't hear the words. They don't have the lyrics, right? You are just telling them the plan, and they're not on board because they didn't have buy-in with it. And so that's kind of to me, when I read about that activity, I was like, that's really that really brings that home for me because I'm one of those people too. Okay, so we have disarmed, discovered, dreamed, designed. Now, this is when people fall off the wagon, and this is when deliver comes. This is when you send people off for directions, and you never know if they make it again, and you wonder how they are, right? So this is the deliver stage, and this is just where the learner or the student is following through with your plan. Now, the big thing to know about this stage is there are going to be roadblocks. There are going to be problems that occur. How many times in our lives have we thought we had it all figured out? I mean, I'm a mother, so I can tell you and it didn't work. And it didn't, and it doesn't go the way. So we have to adjust. We have to bounce back. We have to figure out how to move forward from that. And as professionals, we've done that countless times, and we're good at doing that. But as students, they haven't developed that skill. And so a lot of times, if something doesn't happen, they hit any roadblock, they're off the wagon. So when you're in your design phase, and you tell them, follow up with me in a week, I'm probably not going to notice the next week if I don't follow up with me because of my schedule. But about 2 weeks out, I'm like, what happened to them? And so eventually I'll reach out to them and say, hey, what happened? I just got frustrated because this didn't work, or I still failed the next test, but I made it. What'd you make? I made a 69. Well, you made a 30 on the first one, good. And so then we can kind of pick up, redirect, put our blocks back together, and start new again with that student if they run into any problems. And it's good for you to tell them that there will probably be issues that come up. And it's good to ask them ahead of time. So if you have a problem that occurs, what are you going to do? Call you. Exactly. Well, you're going to try to work through on your own first, okay? But then you're going to let me know what happened, and then make sure that we went through with whatever it was. And so that's really the big thing with the deliver phase is just being there to support them when something doesn't go their way. And then when something does go their way, it is amazing. They're so excited. They usually come back to tell you that something went their way. I had a student one time I was trying to help get in physical therapy school, and I changed jobs in the middle of her doing this. And I'd already done my applications and all her stuff, and we had made her degree plan years before and all of this stuff. And I saw her like 2 years later, and I didn't even recognize her. She cut her hair and dyed it, looked all different, but she told me who she was, and she said, so I didn't get into physical therapy school the first time or the second, but I got accepted this time, and I'm starting in July or whenever it was. And I was just so happy, and she was just thrilled to see me because she had been wanting my kind, and we hadn't been able to keep up with each other. And she's just like, you're the reason this happened. And I'm like, hopefully not. It didn't happen the first 2 times. She didn't look at it that way. No, but she looked at it as like, that's the only reason I was able to be here is because of all the planning that you had. And just the satisfaction in that is super, super rewarding for me on the advisor's end. So we already talked about that. We're not going to do this activity. Okay, and then lastly, don't settle. Originally when Dr. Bloom created this, she made 5 categories. 6, yeah. So she made 5, and she didn't have the don't settle in there. And then a couple of years afterwards, they decided to add it to the framework. Because really, if we're in an appreciative mindset, then we're trying to encourage the students to be the best person that they can be the best professional one day, and dream the biggest dream that they can dream that's realistic, and let's work on a way to get there. And so that don't settle just kind of fit naturally with it, and so it's just to keep raising that bar for that student. So it could be like I said, we got the form sign. All right, what's the don't settle? We're not going to have a hold next semester. Oh, we passed this class with a B. Okay, what's the next step? Well, the next, when I have to take inorganic 2, then I'm gonna make a C. Okay, let's make a plan to make that happen. And so just keep better, more well-rounded person is kind of the idea behind Don't Settle. Just keep raising that bar. And whatever the topic may be, just let them know that, you know, your potential is not spent just because we met our goal. You know, what could you do a little bit better than that? And I think we talked about that. So, disarm, discover, dream, design, deliver, don't settle. You don't have to do them. They don't have to be linear. You can jump in when you need to. You may have to spend longer on some phases than others. But if you use this as a framework that guides your interactions with people, and especially with students, and these students are going to have similar interactions. Just because you're having an off day, they're not going to have an off experience because you have a framework that you're following when you're advising students or when you're interacting with students. So a couple of things that we did. I already told you that we talked to them about the match. So when the students are going to be matched into pediatrics, family medicine, general surgery, we utilize this a lot in that realm. And then also there was a tornado January 21st in 2017. Y'all may have heard that destroyed our campus. So we had over 90% of the buildings were damaged in some way. We had to move the whole medical school off campus and across town into the old nursing building at USM, which we were so thankful to have. But most of our classes were being held in churches throughout the community and community centers. I mean, it was a rough time for us. And we had some students that lost everything in the tornado. And so I had no idea until we were in the midst of this chaos that we were in, that we were actually using this framework on the interactions with the students after the tornado. They had lost everything. They had no clothes. They had no car. You know, they were traumatized because some of our students were in the simulation lab building when the wall was taken off. And so we were utilizing this framework in that scenario, and it didn't even make itself clear until a few days later we started thinking. I said, well, then I did this with them, and now they're coming back to me with this, and so we were kind of collaborating together. And somebody said, yeah, well, I went, we went all the way through design. They made a comment that created that was relevant to this, and I was like, oh, you know, and so if you make it part of your culture, if you make it part of the way you start seeing things, you're going to mess up. I mess up every day. But if you keep trying and you keep making it a part of your culture, eventually you'll use it on all interactions, and it can be really beneficial, especially in something serious, you know, like the tornado that happened. We didn't even know we were using it, and our students were benefiting because we were utilizing this framework, and we're all doing the same thing. So consider adopting a framework. If you don't have one, just a framework. It doesn't have to be this framework, but this is a good one, and it's worked for other people, and I think it will work for you too. And so consider adopting that in your advising interactions, and there's some resources. And also, there's a couple of books that you can buy. I don't have the other one over here. This is the workbook, so some of the activities that you did were out of this. But the Appreciative Advising Revolution, I can get this to Hannah if any of y'all, the information about it, if any of y'all want to buy this. And there's a textbook too. And they're super easy to read, and they have stuff. So if you are interested in doing more with it with your department, I would definitely encourage you to buy these. I think they're like $17 or something. It's worth every penny of it. But thank y'all so much for having me today. I'm sorry I was a little rushed at the end, but I have enjoyed it so much. Y'all have been just a great group, and that's not even like my appreciative side talking. That's real, y'all have been great. So thank you so much.